About this character here, this is the thumbnail that you just clicked on. About Ms. Marvel, Kevin Feige said he wanted the character to die. He wanted the character to be a mutant. That was his choice. Came out from Cody Ziegler, who's both a comic book writer as well as a TV show writer. He did She-Hulk with Zeb Wells, who did the Spider-Man series where the event actually happened. Kamala Khan's death, and then everything that came afterwards. So there used to be a time, when comic books were a thing that happened that were adapted into movies. And here's an example now of Kevin Feige, who is the creative officer of Marvel, making it so that the movies need to have something happen and then the comic books need to copycat it. What my first beef with the power swap, right? The power change, the different power that Kamala Khan has in the TV show that has no comic book precedence. My thing was, that's stupid. It's not even in the comics. It was one of my things. It's what makes a character, the powers, and the person who they are, and the family, and all that stuff. They're all the same thing. They're all key. They're key moments that make up who a character is. Some of the problems that they face. Well, these challenges are only challenges because of the powers that restrict. If you just think, what if Spider-Man had psychic abilities, or if Spider-Man had, I don't know, the ability to fly? Maybe he wouldn't be in the same pickle. If he could duplicate himself like Multiple Man, then what? He could have his double life. He can execute it perfectly. But the powers of Spider-Man, and keynote, I said Spider-Man, you guys knew I was talking about Peter Parker, right? That's because Miles Morales is Miles Morales. So Spider-Man has specific problems that are key to his character, just as much as Uncle Ben, just as much as everything that makes the Spider-Man character. So Kamala, the movie representation of her, they changed it. Now they went to comic books and did a fix, or they arranged it to match, right? They're going to make it so that Kamala Khan's mutant ability is what we saw in that TV show, Hard Light. That's a make good. That's something. I still am not in favor of it. I would prefer getting an adaptation of your comic book into your TV show. I don't like how one character like Kamala Khan's powers are malleable, where you can go, we can change that, rather than respect it the same way Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, some of these relatively unknowns, their powers are what their powers are, with little to no changes. I don't like that, but fine, they did something to make it match. There's a group of people who will never be happy with it, but let's ask ourselves, why did Feige need the comic books to match? That kind of means he sees value in it, doesn't he? Or is he listening to YouTube creators who are mad at that and go, okay, well, if that's the case, then here you go. And then one other important thing to think about is, if we know the truth about this change that the movie guy decided needed to happen with comic books, what else? Is Falcon and his Captain America new status and symbol of truth, is that directed by Kevin Feige? Hey, we're going to do this thing in the movies where he becomes Captain America, so you make Falcon Captain America again. But boss, what about this comic book? Look at the first page, it talks about Falcon. Look, read right here. Sam Wilson was Captain America for a time, but in the aftermath of the Hydra takeover, led by an evil version of Steve Rogers, he's chosen to step away from the mantle and build a legacy of his own as the high-flying Falcon. Along with his new protege, Rayshon Lucas, aka the Patriot, he's embarking on a new mission to decide what kind of hero he wants to be. By a black writer, right? The writer who wrote that had melanin in his skin. And then he, when he got the chance to do it, goes, you know what's more powerful? Making the legacy on your own. And then you having a sidekick in yourself to big yourself. There was an empowerment that was happening from people who understand how to empower. Those people who understand how to empower are not Kevin Feige, who, if he thought the right thing to do was to change Falcon to Captain America, which after this Ms. Marvel news, I'm guessing is what he thought. You missed the ball. You know what happens, just like in comic books? Steve Rogers comes back. Do you think we're going to be watching a movie 20, 30 years from now called Captain America and it's going to be Falcon again? No. They'll hire some other kid named Chris in his 20s, this time for a longer term contract that is easier on the wallets of the company. And they won't need to get rid of him because his contract expired and he's going to renegotiate for something way more expensive. He's too much to keep. That's the reason why, you guys. If Chris Evans, Robert Downey, Scarlett Johansson, if they would have got these guys early, long term, with an understanding of how important this brand would be, they'd have signed them those contracts for a longer time. Or they would have found actors who would be willing to do it. That's why we're getting these swaps. Okay, the brand of Captain America is really important. Let's do that switch. What other examples of Kevin Feige's interference is there in these comic books? I don't think he has anything to do with Mary Jane and Spider-Man not being together, which is kind of a thing in Amazing Spider-Man. A lot of fans are upset with why can't he just be happy? Well, what could Kevin Feige be up to? Let's think about this. Shang-Chi with his 10 rings. Did he make that comic book happen? I can't tell if it's the creatives at Marvel Comics who go, well, let's just copy the movies. Or they're being told now from the boss. What are some examples that I'm not thinking about? Did Feige say, let's do an Eternals comic book? Let's see what we can do. Is that what he did? Kieran Gillen come here doing the Eternals? I don't know. And what's the consequence to these comic book ideas failing? When they go back to Kevin Feige and they say, look, we could sell a limited 4-issue series. The sales went down so low that we had to end it at 4. But, you want to do another Ms. Marvel thing? Ms. Marvel Mutant Menace? Okay, that'll be another 4 issues. Kevin's like, why can't you just do 8 issues? No, you see, Kevin, issue number 1 sells really well, and there's a lot of variant covers, and fans will actually buy those. So that's why we can't just go 1 to 8, because issue number 5 is going to be like a low-selling title. We can just sell issue 1 to 4, and then 1 to 4 a second time. It just makes much more sense here. And then, you know who loses out on that? The comic book shops who over-ordered all their issue number 1s because they just couldn't know. How many do we get, really? That's who loses. Iman Vellani is the comic book writer in charge of this. So you have to imagine that was orchestrated by Kevin Feige. And then, side tangent, think about how many few roles there are for her to be doing. Much like the Aladdin actor Mida Masood. We're like from the same city. Yeah, cool. A big project, you're known, and no one in Hollywood is calling you or casting you in something. Because your identity isn't a popular enough casting. No one's looking for you and what you look like and from your backgrounds. All these amazing studios who are so pro-diversity, right? It's all a lie. It's all a lie. And I don't celebrate those temporary race swaps of, all right, good, look, we did a guy from that background. There it is. Back to the white guy in the next reboot. That's where are we going? The problem is that we don't have legendary characters from popular franchises that are in the zeitgeist, that fairy tales, the repeated constants that form us, the life lessons and the storybooks. We don't have many of them with skin tones a little bit dark, with cultures a little bit different than what is casually, commonly accepted, commonly featured, which is the people we call... Which is Joe Biden's people. Joe Biden's people. And Donald Trump's people. I'm not picking a side here. I don't have a political affiliation. My political affiliation is Free Palestine. And stop talking about what's happening in schools. And look at graves being dug up. And look at all of these things, terrible things happening in Gaza. That's my political affiliation. Carrying over to my final point, which is Cody Ziegler and his loose lips. Will there be consequences for it? Yes and no. Not overtly, but he's doing the Deadpool series now. You would think that there's going to be like a progression, a climb. He did the Miles Morales book. He did the Deadpool book. You're probably thinking, what's next for him? You know, a bigger star. Maybe one day he'll do Thor, Captain America, Hulk. I don't think so. I don't think that he'll get an Iron Man series next. I think they'll offer him something that he probably won't really want to do. He might say yes to it, but it'll be a low-profile book. Then they'll say, oh, he's not selling. We can justify not keeping him anymore. Too bad. Too bad for Cody Ziegler. And if I'm wrong and he's doing the Avengers title right after Jed McKay, then I'm wrong. What do you think about Cody Ziegler? Answer that question in the comment section. If there's something else that I said here, answer that also. Peace. Jonathan Majors is innocent. Recast T'Challa. And Free Palestine.